look crooked. But man. Nah, I'm keeping this shit on. Yeah, I got it. Ah, man. Just finished meditating. Been out here for a little minute. Like 30 minutes probably. A little over that. But yeah, man. One day, or day one. Nah, I don't like how that. I don't know if I like that one. One day, day one. I've been debating if I wanted to read this book, because at first glance, it gave real, like, bitch made pick me vibes. But I knew if I was to read it, I'll do it with y'all, so whatever sticks, and whatever don't resonate, I release. You feel me? But we're gonna do a law a day. 48 laws of power. And we'll see if my thoughts on it change or not. Like, look. The first law is never outshine the master. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. But we're not getting into it. In the contents, law 1, page 1, never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. In your desire to please or impress them, do not go too far in displaying your talents, or you might accomplish the opposite. Inspire fear and insecurity. Make your masters appear more brilliant than they are, and you will attain the heights of power. You see, like, I'm not jacking it. I'm not jacking that first law, bro. But again, that's at first glance. Maybe it gets deeper. Maybe it don't. Me personally, so far, I feel like, damn, I just realized I'm kind of screaming. But the phone is kind of far away. I'm outside. I don't have my mic. So it is what it is. I feel like that's kind of backwards. Because if you go off the strength of expressing your talents and doing, what's the word, kind of like, you know how you pay people for, like, you pay people with your talent, so y'all kind of like cooperate and do like little favors here and there. I forgot what it's called, but I feel like that's weird. Whatever. Law 1, never outshine the master. Judgment. Always make those above you feel comfortable. Okay, we read that already. Transgression of the law. Nicholas Fouquet, Louis XIV's, that's Louis XIV's fiance minister in the first year of his reign was a generous man who loved lavish parties, pretty women, and poetry. He also loved money, for he led an extravagant lifestyle. Fouquet was clever and very much indispensable to the king. So when the prime minister, Julius Mazarin, died in 1661, the finance minister, did I read that wrong? I said fiance at first. It's finance. Finance minister expected to be named the successor. Instead, the king decided to abolish the position. This and other signs made Fouquet suspect that he was falling out of favor. And so he decided to integrate himself with the king by staging the most spectacular party the world has ever seen. The party's ostensible purpose would be to commemorate the completion of Fouquet's Chateau, Vaux-le Vicomet, but its real function was to pay tribute to the king, the guest of honor, the most brilliant nobility of Europe, and some of the greatest minds of the time, La Fontaine, Rochefoucauld, Madame de Sévigné attended the party. So hella famous people attended the party. He's trying to get on the good side of the king, so he threw the party because he's trying to get a promotion. Type vibe. Okay. Molière wrote a play for the occasion, in which he himself was to perform at the evening's conclusion. The party began with a lavish 7-course dinner, featuring foods from the Orient never before tasted in France, as well as new dishes created especially for the night. The meal was accompanied with music commissioned by Fouquet to honor the king. After dinner, there was a promenade through the Château's gardens. The grounds and fountains of L'Ox-la-Ficomet were to be the inspiration for Versailles. Okay. Fouquet personally accompanied the young king through the geometrically aligned arrangements of shrubbery and flower beds. Arriving at the gardens canals, they witnessed a fireworks display, which was followed by the performance of Mallory's play. The party ran. Ooh, it's cold. Shit. The party ran well into the night, and everyone agreed it was the most amazing affair they have ever attended. The next day, Fouquet was arrested by the king's head musketeer, the Artagnan. 3 months later, he went on trial for stealing from the country's treasury. Actually, most of the stealing he was accused of, he had done on the king's behalf and with the king's permission. Fouquet was found guilty and sent to the most isolated prison in France, high in the Pyrenees Mountains, where he spent the last 20 years of his life in solitary confinement. So you telling me he did all this to impress the king? The king was jealous as shit because he basically outshined the king and threw a party that like niggas can never top ever again. But he did it in honor of the king, and the king was on some hating ass shit and packed him up. You see, like, some shit is like just a learning lesson. Like, one, he shouldn't have been doing the crimes in the first place. Two, fire for that. So you doing all this to impress the next man. Pause. Like, hey, yo. Three, he was flexing too hard. So a lot of this shit could be taken in different type of ways. Okay, let's go into the interpretation. It says interpretation. Louis the 14th, the Sun King, was a proud and arrogant man who wanted to be the center of attention at all times. He could not countenance being outdone in lavishness by anyone, and certainly not his finance minister. To succeed Fouquet, Louis chose Jean-Baptiste Colbert, a man famous for his parsimony and for giving the dullest parties in Paris. Colbert made sure that any money liberated from the treasury went straight into Louis's hands. With the money, Louis built a palace even more magnificent than Fouquet's. The glorious palace of Versailles. He used the same architects, decorators, and garden designer. And at Versailles, Louis hosted parties even more extravagant than the one that cost Fouquet his freedom. Let us examine the situation. The evening of the party, as Fouquet presented spectacle on spectacle to Louis, each magnificent than the one before, each more magnificent than the one before. He imagined the affairs as demonstrating his loyalty and devotion to the king. Not only did he think the party would put him back in the king's favor, he thought it would show his good taste, his connections, and his popularity, making him indispensable to the king, and demonstrating that he would make an excellent prime minister. Instead, however, each new spectacle, each appreciative smile bestowed by the guests of Fawquet made it seem to Louis that his own friends and subjects were more charmed by finance minister than the king himself, and that Fawquet was actually flaunting his wealth and power rather than flattering Louis the 14th. Fawquet's elaborate party offended the king's vanity. Louis would not admit this to anyone, of course. Instead, he found a convenient excuse to rid himself of a man who had inadvertently made him feel insecure. Such is the fate in some form or other of all those who unbalance the master's sense of self, poke holes in his vanity, or make him doubt his permanence. When the evening began, Fawquet was at the top of the world. By the time it had ended, he was at the bottom. That is absolutely insane. Observance of the law. In the early 1600s, the Italian astronomer and mathematician Galileo found himself in a precarious position. He depended on the generosity of great rulers to support his research, and so, like all Renaissance scientists, he would sometimes have gifts of his inventions and discoveries to the leading patrons of the time. Once, for instance, he presented a military compass he had invented to the Duke of Gonzaga. Then he dedicated a book explaining the use of the compass to the Medicis. Both rulers were grateful, and through them, Galileo was able to find more students to teach. No matter how great the discovery, however, his patrons usually paid him with gifts, not cash. This made for a life of constant insecurity and dependence. There must be an easier way, he thought. Galileo hit on a new strategy in the 16. I said ooh, not because of the book. I said ooh because y'all can't feel it, but it's cold in the bitch. Galileo hit on a new strategy in the 1610s when he discovered the moons of Jupiter. Instead of dividing the discovery among his patrons, giving one of the telescopes he had used, dedicating the book to another, and so on. Instead of dividing the discovery among his patrons, as he had done in the past, he decided to focus exclusively on the Medicis. It's spelled Medicis. So it's not the medics. So it got to be the Medicis. The Medicis. Medicis. I'm going to call them the Medicis. He chose the Medicis for one reason. Shortly after Cosimo I had established the Medici dynasty in 1540, he had made Jupiter, the mightiest of the gods, the Medici symbol, a symbol of a power that went beyond politics and banking, one linked to ancient Rome and its divinities. Galileo turned his discovery of Jupiter's moon into a cosmic event. Wait, what is going on? An unforgivable miscalculation of his own importance, and he paid for it with his life. Remember the following: never take your position for granted, and never let any favors you receive go to your head. Knowing the dangers of outshining a master, you can turn this law to your advantage. First, you must flatter and puff up your master overt flattery can be effective, but has its limits. It's too direct and obvious and looks bad to other courtiers. Discreet flattery is much more powerful. If you make, if you are more intelligent than your master, for example, seem the opposite. Make him appear more intelligent than you. Act naive. Make it seem that you need his expertise. Commit harmless mistakes that will not hurt you in the long run, but will give you the chance to ask for help. Ask for his help. Masters adore such requests. A master who cannot bestow on you the gifts of his experience, may direct rancor and ill will at you instead. See what I mean by people pleasing and bitch made ass shit? It makes sense, but I don't think this should be the right way about going about getting power. But maybe the act of power, maybe it's worth the power. I'm not too sure though. But maybe the act of being a bitch made ass nigga and a pick me might have its. Nah, I don't preach this type shit. Believe in yourself and be great. Fuck whoever got a problem with it. If they gotta come do something to you, let them come do something to you. That's how I feel personally. But yeah. Master cannot. Okay. If your ideas are more creative than your master's, ascribe them to him in as public a manner as possible. Make it clear that your advice is merely an echo of his advice. If you surpass your master in wit, it is okay to play the role of the court jester, but do not make him appear cold and surely by comparison. Tone down your humor if necessary, and find ways to make him seem the dispenser of amusement and good cheer. If you are naturally more sociable and generous than your master, be careful not to be the cloud that blocks his radiance from others. He must appear as the sun around which every one revolves, radiating power and brilliance, the center of attention. If you are thrust into the position of entertaining him, a display of your limited means may win you his sympathy. Any attempt to impress him with your grace and generosity can prove fatal. Learn from Farquaad or pay the price. In all of these cases, it is not a weakness to disguise your strengths if in the end they lead you to power. See, that's what I was thinking, because it's not like you're just doing it in front of the king or the So if the person in power, the master, if you're only doing it in front of the king or the person, I'm not using the master word. That's crazy. But it's not like it's like hiding your hand to gain power. It doesn't make you any less of the brilliant talent that you have. It's just hiding your hand for power. So it don't seem that crazy. Where am I? In all these cases, it is not a weakness to disguise your strength if in the end they lead to power. By letting others outshine you, you remain in control instead of being a victim of their insecurity. This will all come in handy the day you decide to rise above your inferior status. If, like Galileo, you can make your master shine even more in the eyes of others, then you are a godsend and you will be instantly promoted. Image. The stars in the sky. There can be only one sun at a time. Never obscure the sunlight or rival the sun's brilliance. Rather fade into the sky and find ways to heighten the master star's intensity. authority. Avoid outshining the master. Or all superiority is odious, but the superiority of a subject over his prince is not only stupid, it is fatal. This is a lesson that the stars in the sky teach us. They may be related to the sun and just as brilliant, but they never appear in her company. Ballastar Garcian, 1601 to 1658. Don't wait till that shit go by. They turned it off. Thank you. Appreciate you. Reversal. You cannot worry about upsetting every person you come across, but you must be selectively cruel. If your superior is a fallen star, there is nothing to fear from outshining him. Do not be merciful. Your master had no such scruples in his own cold-blooded climb to the top. Gauge his strength. If he is weak, discreetly hasten his downfall. Outdo, outcharm, outsmart him at key moments. If he is very weak and ready to fall, let nature take its course. Do not risk outshining a feeble superior. It might appear cruel or spiteful, but if your master is firm in his position, yet you know yourself to be the more capable, bide your time and be patient. It is the natural course of things that power eventually fades and weakens. Your master will fail someday, and if you play it right, you will outlive and someday outshine him. This is why you don't judge a book by its cover, literally. It's some important stuff to take from here, and I could see how it could be taken negatively or positively, but at the end of the day, what stick, and what don't resonate, I release. That's law one, day one day or day one. We got through the first law of power, and it wasn't too bad. It was a good read. I don't normally read out loud because I feel like I'd be more focused on trying to sound correct than digest the content of what I was reading. But I feel like taking my time and really digesting it was like, I don't know, I feel like I did better than I usually do. So yeah, thank you for watching. I don't know if I'm ever gonna post this or not, but you feel me? You choose, bro. You say you know do something, do it. And yeah, that's it, man. We out here in the cold too. It's cold as a bitch, man.